Okay, so FAQ / designers commentary / errata. Games Workshop have said that they're going to bring out a Blood Bowl update essentially in November and May every single year. So we've known that the FAQ is coming. So beginning of this week, we put out a thing on the YouTube channel saying, hey, what is it that you're looking for from the FAQ? Let us know. Well, the whole point was to do the top 5 Friday, which, as this goes out today, if you're a patron, you've already seen it. If not, then go back and watch the video from yesterday because it was interesting. And it was not exactly what we were expecting. But what we're going to do, Trips, we'll talk through the new changes to the FAQ, and then we'll talk about the changes. I think is probably the best way to do it. So let's focus on the Blood Bowl first of all. What exactly can a team reroll be used to reroll? A team reroll can only be used when a team is active and during its own team turn. It can be used to reroll all the dice in a dice pool. A team reroll may not be used to reroll the following rolls: deviation, scatter, bounce, armor, injury, casualty, throw in, bribes, and argue the call. I think we knew that one already.
I think that and there's a few of these. We'll see it where the language has been tidied, or if there was ever a case where there was confusion or an ability to try and read it in a different way, that's been cleared up.
Yeah, and that is exactly, we mustn't forget this, and that we're going to kind of summarize at the end with this, but that is what the FAQ is for. The FAQ is to hit on frequently asked questions and unmuddy certain rules. So the next one was an interesting one. Can a team remove a team reroll from their roster during the league to lower their team value? No. Once a team reroll has been bought, it is permanently there for the duration of the league. That was an interesting one. It's not. I don't know, Trips, if that's come up too much, but
I don't think it's come up. It's definitely someone who's running a special stunty team has asked that question, so it needed answering. But I don't, particularly in this version, rerolls a gold dust. You could give me 12, and I'll still not
use
have
them by
any
turn
in turn
2.
6.
Yeah, yeah. Blood Bowl 2, I believe you can actually sell the rerolls in between games to manage your team value. So it's kind of an important thing from a team development aspect. Now, this does make you really think about whether you want to start with 4 rerolls or start with 3 and then use a leader to pick up that 4th reroll instead, because it kind of gets to the point where, like, I've got 4 rerolls and now my guy's randomly rolled leader. I don't need that many rerolls. Maybe I'll get rid of a reroll. Well, in a league, you can't. So it's definitely worth knowing. The next one is about Blitz. If I roll a Blitz result on the kickoff event table, it states I'm allowed to activate D3 + 3 open players. Do these players need to be open when the kickoff event is rolled, or can I activate players that become open during the Blitz, such as if a player pushes an opposition player away from a teammate so that they are now open? Good strats, I like that, but they must be open at the time of the kickoff event. I get this one, Trips. And
I get it. This one feels like someone's had a big argument over what does Blitz mean, and it's bitterly ended up as an FAQ.
Yeah,
it's actually in a way, it's a timing clarification. They've clarified.
Yeah,
when you have a Blitz, at exactly what point are players open?
Yeah,
and what you do first.
Yeah, I like that. It does clarify it. Like, I did enjoy the whole aspect of, okay, I'll blitz this guy, which then frees up this guy who was on the line of scrimmage to now move. I did like that kind of aspect of it, but it does clear it up. It does make it more straight. I think if you're having a blitz turn, the best thing to do then is to just turn around the models that are marked at the beginning of that phase. That means that at no point can you accidentally free up a player and then accidentally move a player. I
think if you rolled a blitz, be grateful you've rolled a blitz.
Oh yeah,
use it, take it forward. Don't try it, and
don't game it too much.
Game it so much that your opponent is literally going, well, I won't have the ball.
And you know what? This is another great reason why Blood Bowl 2 I don't enjoy quite so much, is because it's all the old kickoff stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
So it's like,
it comes up too much.
The old blitz was just horrible. So yeah, that's good. That's gone. Can a player that performed a special action also make a move action before or after performing the special action? Trips, I'm really glad they brought this one out because we talked about this with Thorson, right?
We had this in the game. We both were looking at the wording of the rule, and you're like, we can read it either way.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way that we thought it should be played.
Yes.
But it's really good to see it clarified that quickly.
So yeah, so no, unless the special action in question specifically states otherwise or is performed as part of a blitz action if applicable. Note that some special actions that can be used as part of a blitz action also state the player cannot move after performing the special action. So unless it says you can do it, you can't do it. And you can't do it as part of a blitz. So basically, one of the things that confuse this is that when you throw a bomb, the bombardier skill says this is a special action and you can't move after it. Then there are other actions that were a special action and don't say that you can't move.
Yeah.
So the precedent is set in the one that says you can't move, that why would it say you can't move after it unless you normally can? Well, actually, they've cleared it all up. If it's a special action, unless it says you can move, you can't move. So that is a good thing. And now we know how to use Thorson correctly. And I think that does make him less powerful, which is fine. He's in the middle category now, which I think is a fair one. Does a player who has the jump up skill need to roll to stand up if they also have a movement allowance of 2 or less? No. Jump up works beautifully. So Tree Man with jump up, great way of doing it if you can wait 12 SPP. I mean, taking block might mean he doesn't actually get knocked over. So I don't know. Maybe block is still better than jump up, but
someone's still doing it. So
yeah,
good to have the rule clarified.
Absolutely. It's a good one. When a player declares an opposition player as the target of a blitz, right? Basically, when you declare a target, when you blitz, do you have to blitz only that target? And yes, you can only declare your block against that target. So if you've got a Minotaur, you're saying, right, I'm going to blitz your thrower, and then you activate him, and then you move him, and you go, actually, I want to block this dude instead. You can't. You can only block that thrower. You don't have to block the thrower. You can move the Minotaur anywhere you want, but you can only block that player because you declared him as a target. I believe this is fully to do with the way that foul appearance works, or dump off as well. Yeah, and I like that. That makes sense. All right, this is the most contentious bit. Yeah,
this is the everyone went. Hello.
Yeah. If a thrown player lands in an occupied square and then subsequently bounces into another occupied square, is the player that is in the new occupied square also knocked down? So that one made sense. That's Skittles. That's how we were rolling it anyway. If you chuck a goblin at a cage and it hits a bunch of dudes, the bunch of dudes are going to go down. However,
and that is why you chuck a goblin at a cage.
It was. However, if a thrown player lands in an occupied square, it will automatically fall over after bouncing into an unoccupied square. Does this cause a turnover even if the thrown player was not carrying the ball? Yes. This set off a mini nuclear device in the video comments on the Blood Bowl community. Now, let's preface this. And there's a lot of opposing views that have come out of this. And there are two things that are both correct and are both true, but countermand each other. Those two things are this is just what the rule says. The rule says this happens because it says the dude falls over, and page 20 or whatever says falling over causes a turnover. So yes, one, the rules have always said this, but two, because the subsection above that rule says it doesn't cause a turnover, it means that everyone read it like this doesn't cause a turnover. Move on. Yeah, it doesn't. Just assumed it's the same rules, which means it's been most commonly played, essentially incorrectly, and that is why everyone's like, "Oh, this is ruined. This is ruined." Because
it's being played incorrectly more often than not,
especially on our channel.
Probably more fun in the incorrect way.
Way more fun. So now with throwing a player, if you throw a player without the ball and he crash lands on his own, it's not a turnover. If you throw a player who doesn't have the ball and he goes into the crowd, it's not a turnover. If you throw a player who doesn't have the ball but he hits another player, then it is a turnover. And this is the thing that's interesting. Even if you throw a guy into the ground and he dies, and then you use an apothecary and he dies again, even if you kill a goblin twice, it's not a turnover. But if you throw a goblin into another goblin and they are both fine, it is a turnover. The flow doesn't feel right, but it is absolutely what the rulebook says. So it's a great FAQ in that regard. It's good job doing it, but it doesn't feel right.
No, it's going to be it doesn't feel like it's consistent. I think that's always going to be the issue. That's what always causes a bit of rule rage, is consistency.
Yeah.
But it is the way the rule's written in the first place. So from that point of view, yeah, it's good that they've tidied it up.
Yeah. It is massively going to affect Stunty. We'll talk about that in a bit. I think it's probably the biggest takeaway here.
The biggest thing it changes is that turn order of this, because you're not throwing a player in to try and do something and then run players through the gaps you've created, because he lands on something and that's your last action of the turn.
Yeah, goblins, snotlings, you throw a player at the cage, then you throw a bomb at the cage, then you run in and get the bomb. And then you run in and get the ball. Now you throw a bomb at the cage, you throw a player at the cage. If the player at the cage bit works, that's the end of the turn. So it's quite big. It does sadly raise the question of, what about kick teammate? Does that still... technically, it's still about landing a player. It doesn't actually say with a thrown player. It just says, oh yeah, it does, if a thrown player lands in an occupied square. So that's going to raise some FAQs around kick teammate. Which I don't want to touch right now. We'll figure it out. During the end of drive sequence, what happens first? Players sent off or weather effects. Secret weapons are sent off first. I think that's a good clarification. If a player makes a superb kick teammate special action, does it generate star player points like a throw teammate special action? No. Again, that is how it's written. That is correct. It's a shame.
It's not fun, but it's the way the rule is written.
Yeah, it's this one I like. If I hire a journeyman that gained an advancement during step 3 of the post-game sequence, how much do they cost to hire? They will cost the same as their current value, including the cost of any advancements gained. Basically, if you've got a Skaven journeyman and he causes 2 touchdowns and you go, oh cool, I'll level him up, he's now going to cost 70k. Basically, if your journeyman does good stuff, buy him.
Do not level him up.
Level him up next game.
Yes.
Yeah, because you'll save, potentially 20k.
You'll save whatever you're going to grade.
Now, there's a lot of the times where actually maybe a cheeky random skill is a great way to do it. I've got a journeyman beastman. I'll roll a random on him, see what he gets. Cool. The guy got claw. Yeah, I'll buy him for 70k instead of 60k. There's definitely, you just be careful. Don't be like, oh great, I can give that guy kick. I'll give him kick and then I'll buy him, because you're paying for that.
There's going to be someone who's gone, that's the advancement I want. I'll buy him. I don't have that much money.
Yeah, I can't get him now.
Can I have him at his base price?
Yeah. So be very careful of that one. Again, it makes a lot of sense. If a player with the animal's savagery trait has the jump up skill, do they still get +2 to the roll if they wish to attempt to make a block while prone? Yes. Saxby loves a good jump up Minotaur, and this is
I think
true to form.
An amazing skill on the Minotaur, and it turns the Minotaur from being a mad frenzy idiot to a
dead weight,
scary mad frenzy idiot.
Yeah. So definitely watch Jump Up. This FAQ is sponsored by Jump Up.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. If a player has both the Jump Up skill and the Stab trait, can they use the Jump Up skill to allow it to make a block action from prone, then replace this block action with a Stab special action? Yes. So if you've got a Jump Up on your Dark Elf Assassin, you can jump up and stab dudes.
So just like throwing has got nerfed, what this, and we'll see some more in a minute, this is why you should take an assassin in a Dark Elf team. It's going to come through in the next 3 FAQs.
So what exactly can the pro skill be used to reroll? Reroll a single dice rolled by the player on his own or part of a multiple roll. It cannot be used to reroll a dice that was rolled as part of injury, armor, casualty, a roll that is not made during its own activation, such as regeneration, or a dice that is not rolled on behalf of that player specifically, such as bribe or argue the call. Yeah, that made sense to me.
Yeah.
If a player attempts to dodge away from a player with shadowing, which roll happens first, the dodge roll or the roll for shadowing? The dodge roll will happen first, and once the dodge has been resolved, the opposing player may roll for shadowing if they wish. I like that. That's good sequencing.
Good sequencing and pretty logical because you can't shadow a player who's fallen over.
It would have been potentially useful for them to say in what order you roll a go for it, a rush and a dodge. Now, we've got really good as a player base of declaring it. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter because both things are going to go, it's all going to go wrong. But it does come up very difficult because a lot of that dodging is going to be a 3+, and the go for it's going to be a 2+, and it's just an interesting one.
Yeah. Unless you're Norsing it, and then it's nice and easy.
Just give up. Play Skaven. If a player has both the Frenzy and Stab trait, if they declare a block action, which results in a pushback, when they follow up and have to perform a second block action, can they stab instead? Yes, this is how it used to be. This is how it is correct to be. So, yeah, this is the rise of the Frenzy Assassin. I really hope we get a Hobgoblin team or a Night Goblin team with a Goblin with Stab.
We need another player with stab now because you just don't see assassins enough, and it's a great skill, but it's not a great positional within their build.
Assassins are good in tournaments because of the rise of Underworld and Snotlings. I played against Sandball. Game 3 was against Dark Elves. We drew 1-1 in the end, but he was running 2 assassins, and it was just stab, taking out Snotlings left, right, and centre. Brilliant, especially with like Norse coming now. Now they're low armour. Actually, assassins worth considering in a tournament environment. They will get beaten up in a league. Can a player, I like this one, can multiple players from the same team use on the ball in response to the same pass action? If so, what happens if one of them falls over? Yes, they all get to use on the ball, but it's done sequentially, and if a dude falls over, no one else can be moved. So essentially, when on the ball kicks in, you have a little mini blitz turn where the on the ball guys do stuff, but if you get an on the ball turnover, then the on the ball turn phase ends.
I would love to play in an Edge Parsi league and give a load of players on the ball now. You would be a nightmare. You'd be like, oh, you're throwing the ball, excellent. I should just reposition my entire team.
Yes, I do like this ruling. It makes a lot of sense because otherwise it's just a case of I can just take really bad dodges with all my on the ball guys and nothing matters.
Yeah.
Actually, this is like you still can't go crazy with it. I like that. I think that's probably the right thing. Does a player with ball and chain have to use their full movement? No, we knew that, but good to get it cleared up. Does skills that this is my favorite one. Does skills
yeah.
Does skills that apply to the ball but are not part of a pass action, such as Fumblerooski, also apply to a bomb? No, because a bomb is not a ball. Actually, how the FAQ's written, I like that a lot. Can a player use a reroll of any kind, team reroll, pro, etc., to reroll to see if a bomb that was caught will explode? No. I like that. I think it's a nice bit of clarity because it is kind of the thing that only comes up like once every month in a league, and it's like, I don't know. No, you can't. If that bomb goes off, the bomb goes off. If you're playing Bomber Dribble Snot, that bomb is going to go off anyway. Can players using Chainsaw get assists for fouls? Yes, which is excellent. Again, we knew that, but it's nice to have it clarified. Can a team reroll be used to reroll a regeneration roll? No, as the active team's turn has already ended by the time the regeneration reroll is made. Yeah, so again, that one came up at League a couple of times, didn't it, Trips? And
yeah.
It's good to have a definitive no. If a player holding the ball is turned into a frog as the result of the zap spell and the ball is first forced to bounce, is a turnover caused? No, that's good. That was an edge case where you can use the wizard at the start of your opponent's turn. So their turn has started. They then drop the ball as the ball carrier, which causes a turnover. Doesn't anymore. So that's good. Hackflem, when does he get to use a special ability? It is only at the start of his activation. Again, that's good. That's straightened that up. So there's a bunch of stuff in the death zone bit, which is mostly inducement related. They're all very specific. I don't think there was anything in there that was particularly important. What happens when a wizard hits the crowd? Nothing cares. No one cares. Something about runes.
Lots of someone has asked the question and it could be answered, but
yeah,
nobody really needed to know the answer.
So I was a bit. There's only one Dungeon Ball FAQ, I think. If a player on a portal is rooted as per the take root trait and then is subsequently teleported, such as by a chain reaction, are they still considered to be rooted? No. I like that. That makes sense. Must really suck to get rooted on a teleporter, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty rare, but it might happen.
Yeah, I love that this is frequently asked questions. How frequently was that question asked? Like, really?
I mean, we've discussed whether trees are potentially the worst positional in Dungeon Bowl.
Yeah.
And only good thing might be covering the end zone. Well, if they get rooted on a teleporter now, well, they're
going to be more mobile,
to move them,
which is excellent. Okay, this one sucked, Trips. When Scylla Anfingrim uses his Fury of the Blood God special rule to perform 2 block actions, is the first block action made in its entirety, including the use of the Fury skill before the second block action is made? Yes. Okay. Trips, what does Fury do?
You'll have to remind me on this one because I haven't looked into this star player very much.
Oh, no. There is no Fury skill.
Is this the frenzy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this one has not really clarified this. I think what it means, but then if you're saying I think what it means about an FAQ document, all you're doing is creating another FAQ document. So this then turns into a multiverse kind of situation, and there's enough of that in the cinemas. So basically, if Scylla fails a really angry check, he can pop his feet to use Fury of the Blood God, which means he gets to make 2 block actions. The question was, are those block actions sequential? When does he choose multiple targets, and can it be multiple targets? The answer was yes. So we still don't know how that works. What it says is the first block action made in its entirety, including the use of the Fury, which we believe means frenzy skill, before the second block action is made.
Yeah, so Scylla's special rule is Fury of the Blood God.
Yes, which is why they've written
Fury. Yeah,
which is why they've written Fury instead of Frenzy. So the whole idea is that when a Minotaur or a Blood Beast gets angry, they just stand there being angry. When this dude gets angry, he attacks twice instead.
Yeah.
So how this is supposed to play out, I believe, given the FAQ answer, is he makes a full strength 5 block action, follows up with Frenzy, blocks again, and then makes an entirely new block action. What we needed to know is it on the same player? Does he choose a new target now because he's already moved? No, because
and how do you pick that player?
Exactly. Now, I think as it stands now with the FAQ, it's an entirely different block action. Therefore, he doesn't need to declare that target of the block action, and should therefore be able to double block a dude or push, and then block a guy who he wasn't in base contact with. So Scylla is on the edge of the cage.
Yeah. Is he moving around and ending up blocking a player 2 squares away?
Exactly. So Scylla could now block his way into a cage and then block the ball carrier with the second block if and only if he fails that animal savagery. No, not animal savagery. Unchanneled fury.
So I think on behalf of everyone TOing a tournament for the next 6 months, figure out what you're going to do with this one before the day. Because if anyone brings Scylla, it's going to come up.
Oh, it will definitely come up. And not only did they get it wrong once, they got it wrong twice, which is hilarious in the same bit. So there was none of that. We got some more Death Zone clarifications, which were basically timing rules for wizards. So if you are using a cool wizard from Death Zone, double check it. I mean, Trips, we've run a Dungeon Bowl tournament now. We're pretty good at understanding that there will be questions of wizard timings.
I think this was, it didn't massively need doing, but it was they're really good timing clarifications, which just can prevent the whole, should it be here or should it be there? Someone has gone through that very clearly and figured it out, which is nice.
Yeah, it's excellent. I do appreciate that. This one was interesting. So giants, base size and tackle zones. Add the following to the end of the second paragraph. Whenever a giant finishes a move action or follows up after a block action, then they may change their facing if they wish. Though if done as part of following up after a block action, they must still be marking the player if possible. So we can assume then that changing of facing can only happen with the giant if they've blocked and followed up, or if they've moved, which I tell you what does make sense. When we ran the giants, it was a case of if you activate the giant, you can leave him how you want. This does go counter to that. And then the kickoff touchback rule was corrected in sevens, which is the ball is fine to land anywhere except in the kicking team's zone, which is
Thank
great.
goodness that's been done. We should run some sevens now.
We should definitely run some sevens. Right, Dungeon Bowl, there was another bit. They corrected Snotlings to have Titchy, so we win.
Yeah.
We win.
I think you find that that was in a rule set recently used by us.
Yeah, we win that one. That said, someone did flag this up on a comment in the video earlier about the Norse guys, because the Norse Raiders in the Spike magazine for the College of Heavens don't actually have thick skull.
Ooh.
Which is interesting.
That's another typo, but it hadn't. It probably would have missed the cutoff, I would imagine.
No, this is the thing. In the actual bit at the top, it said the rules presented here may differ slightly from those for Norse Blood Bowl teams.
Oh.
So they corrected the Snotling error, but actually in Spike 14...
deliberately did it.
So we got that wrong. I don't know how. I don't like that. I think that's the whole point. Is the Snotlings and the Fire College team didn't have Titchy. We made the ruling that they did have Titchy because a Snotling is a Snotling is a Snotling, and we just don't think it makes sense to have two identical players be ever so slightly different when they're the same model and the same cost.
A Snotling's never going to be overpowered. So if a Snotling doesn't have Titchy, what is a Snotling?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. Then we got some Favourite of Corn updates, and then probably the biggest FAQ update, or the most obvious one to fix that they waited so long for. Barrack Farblast became Cannoneer instead of Strong Arm, which was just obviously going to happen.
That was the one we'd all wanted. Everyone knew that happened, but we've had to wait till the official FAQs for it.
Yeah, and now I probably have to redo the spotlight video. Then we move on to the tier list, which did not change.
Yeah.
So that is all of the stuff that was in the designer's commentary for May 2022. We've covered what's changed. Biggest yay or nay for you, Trips?
Biggest yay for me is actually they've not tweaked too much. They've just done a lot of tidying and detail, and I think running into the summer of Blood Bowl and tournaments and leagues and actually people being able to play, I think it's great that there's not going to be a massive swing or change to things. I think that's not a bad thing in my mind. I'll open it up to you at that point.
Right, this is interesting. This is an interesting thing because I am absolutely in two minds. But I was looking at some of the video comments from the FAQ and some of the top 5 wish list, and there's a comment right at the bottom of the FAQ bits. Was it bottom of that or was it wish list top 5? It was top 5, and it's from our buddy David Priest. He said, controversial opinion, but maybe nothing. Maybe it's hard enough to keep up with all the new teams and star players, plus the different rule sets from different leagues and tournaments. Any rules that people think are wrong for everyone, so it's fair. It's fine for those of us who've been following the game, but it's really off-putting for new players when you show them 3 rulebooks and then say, oh, but you've also got to check these websites because they've changed some of the rules. So I think to your point, Trips, the biggest yay is the fact that they haven't changed that much. I think
that's a massive point because we have
agree
number of times looked at other tournament players when other games are going on, and you can see them with their sort of
Oh, even Craig and Ian, when they were
binder
playing
full
Age
of
of
rules.
Sigmar at club the
Yeah,
other week, I was kind of like, I've got this, and I've got this from a White Dwarf, and I'm like, oh, you guys, that's just no, it doesn't sound fun at all. Actually, I think David Priest's point here, I think is absolutely superb. It's like the less change, the better. If it's wrong, it's wrong, and everyone knows that it's wrong, and therefore it is right, and it is an acceptable thing. However, I am also of the opinion that and I know this is the Blood Tide would definitely want us to talk about this, is actually having a rebalance, having that bit of rotation is also really fun. Like, it was really exciting when the tiers changed, when the star players' costs changed. But I think that timeline is really important, and I think the more, I guess I'm coming full circle on this, because the more we were involved with Blood Bowl and stuff, it doesn't need to change up very often. It really doesn't. Like, yeah, if there's a couple of stupid things, there's a couple of stupid things. There's stupid things in every game. But I think the biggest yay is that majority of these rules were tidy ups. And yes, the throw teammate one feels wrong, but that is what it says in the rule book, and that's how it's supposed to have been played the whole time. And fine, you know what? It hurts stunties, and every FAQ hurts stunties. Hail Mary got bad, now throw teammate got bad, and I imagine, I don't know, what can they do next time? Well, they'll find something. But
Titchy away.
yeah, take Titchy back away from the Snotlings. But I do, I think that's the right thing.
So I think there is a happy middle ground for which I think everyone will be happy, and that's where you use the May FAQ like they've used it now
to
tidy, to sort, to reword, to do the timings, to just do all the clarifications. And then you have the once a year meta change, and you do that in November. Because if you do change any of the scoring, the pricing, or the tiers on a regular basis, it will become a what is the tiering system this time? Whereas it's like the General's Handbook or the Tomb of Champions for Warcry.
Yeah.
You do it once a year, people can live with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that rebalance versus FAQs are there to tidy up the rules, and this one tidied up the rules, and none of it here, with the exception of I guess Scylla, and that's really just because it's kind of a bit of an uncomplicated. But everything here was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's how we expected it to be. But how come people have been asking that? It's been written down, and that's great. But it's come through at FAQ because people were unsure about it. So excellent. Well, we've now got it lined up, and that's really good. It's interesting because when we looked at like things that people wanted from the FAQ, the majority of it was rebalancing or rules changes. And actually, it's interesting, and I think that's the massive breadth and width that Blood Bowl gives you. Of this is a game you can play 20 games a week and love it, and that's less than one game per team, right? But there's also the coaches there that play 3 games a year or a quarter because they go to one tournament every few months because that's all they can fit into their life. And actually, Blood Bowl is the kind of game that deserves to just be the game as it is. And actually, if all they're doing is introducing new teams and optional rules that most events don't use, like, so Death Zone, the only thing we've got in Death Zone for any of our events is the Giant because it's really cool. But actually, sitting down against an opponent in Blood Bowl who's got a team you've never seen before, they sit down against Norse and they're like, oh, is this the new Norse team? Or they sit down against Khorne and they're like, oh, what's this team do? Here's my team sheet. Literally everything you need to know is on this sheet. It's a few stats, a few skills, and you're good to go. That, I think, is excellent. But I think the more rebalancing that happens, it definitely gets rid of it. Now, there's another part of me, don't get me wrong, that would merrily pay £20 a year for a competitive book of Blood Bowl. And this is the competitive format. We've downgraded the cost of these stars. We've upgraded the cost of these stars. We've changed this skill on this team. This is your competitive thing for this year. Go. Great. Now we've got, Underworld.
The Bonehead manual every year.
Yeah. See, that would be amazing. But it doesn't, it's not what Blood Bowl is about. Blood Bowl is about playing within the rules because there's so much to do within the rules. And that's what puts me off. I love Adeptus Titanicus, but there's now so much stuff outside of just the table. Like Age of Sigmar and 40k are the worst for this. It's like playing a war game in a Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon. I'm like, what is this? I don't want that to be the case of Blood Bowl, although I do want more wizards.
And we got spoiled a little bit in November with the changes to the stars and the tiers. But did we all go, oh, this is going to be great, they're going to be updated, or was it then just going, we got the pricing a little bit wrong, we got the tiering wrong, we've seen what everyone is doing with Hackflem, and that needs to be stopped.
And I think we got excited at the prospect of, oh wow, we're going to have a rebalance, and this could be great. Well, there's definitely some elements that would be great, and some of the suggestions that you guys made about skills and things are like, well, why can't we first of all fix Hail Mary Pass? Why don't we make Iron Skin a little bit better? Why don't we make some of the skills that aren't used a little bit better? I love the idea of that, but then you get to that point where there's your rulebook and your spike. That's all you need right now, and you really don't need the rulebook very often, and you don't really ever need a spike. You need your roster. You go to a Blood Bowl event, you need a roster. That is basically all you're going to need, except for the weather table and kickoff table, because no one can remember it. Because we played with the old one for 20 years. That's it, right? Everything else is good to go. But if you get to the point where you're like, right, actually that rule does this now, then it does get away from the wonderful thing that is Blood Bowl, is that the carnage of Blood Bowl is on the pitch, on the table, and you're both watching it fall apart. If you have to study for a game, it's not a game, it's a job.
And as we mentioned earlier, hopefully BB3 might be out before the next FAQ. That would be good. And Games Workshop have made Cyanide's life a bit easier by not rewriting a whole heap of rules, which means it needs to be delayed for another 3 months while they go, oh, we were playing it the other way as well.
Yeah, we'll have Blood Bowl 2 live with the old rules. We'll have Fumble live with the pretty much closest rules to tabletop. There'll be Blood Bowl 3 that will be 6 to 12 months behind the most recent FAQ. And then there'll be Tabletop, where everyone gets the rules wrong all the time anyway. And then you'll have our games on the channel where we think we're doing the right thing, but by the time the video comes out, the FAQ's gone live. And it doesn't. I really hated that. I can't remember what it was. It was on one of the videos, and the video went live, and someone was like, oh, it doesn't work like that. I'm like, it blooming did when we filmed it.
It did. But also, I think that is such a key part. We've touched on it before, and definitely when we've talked across the group, there are so many rules and decisions and details, and you probably see this in any tabletop game, pretty much any board game. You're going to make 1 or 2% mistakes, and that's going to happen. The trick is it's not to get really too hung up on it and go, sometimes it'll happen. As long as no one's doing it deliberately to game it, in the long run, is it going to be the biggest worry in the world?
Yeah, and I think David Priest is probably right there. There was a load of great comments between the two videos and stuff. And, you know, we look at our tournaments, the last 2 tournaments we've done, the meta, the variety of teams, the gameplay was so rich that if it stayed like this forever with no new teams and no new rules, I really don't think it would suffer for it. And that is a pretty amazing place to be, I think, with this game. Although I want more teams and I want more rules, but we don't need them, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there is plenty of design space there, and there's detail, and actually you tidy up all the rules as you go along. It does give you the ability to bring in new rules. So maybe that's helping us for the future, is by not having weird interactions that we didn't even think that we would ever worry about.
Right, on that one then, Trips, we'll wrap up, but I don't know if we've had a chance to ask you this. One new team can be introduced to Blood Bowl. What would you want it to be?
So one new team, well, other than sorting a team of legend, another team of legend now.
New team.
Well, I'd like to see the Spiders from a Warcry come across now in some variant. I think that would truly freak everybody out, and a spider would be like a beer ball, but with sting or something like that.
Stab would work.
Sting and stab, yeah.
Oh, scorpions with stab. That'd be quite fun.
Oh yeah.
I like that.
That would be.
I like that. I agree. We need spiders in Blood Bowl. Maybe a forest goblin team with spiders, like spider riders, like the Fumble team. I personally think that we are absolutely gagging for a Chaos Stunty team, so that we can actually see some of those Chaos Star players on the pitch.
Yeah, I think the team I'd love to see from a game point of view is something. I'd love to see a passing team come out that makes everyone want to pass the ball.
That would be sweet. I actually think some kind of like Elven League rule set like they do with the other ones. And I think that I honestly think one of the things that would change it the most, or would be really interesting to see, is if you throw to a dude and that dude scores a touchdown, then you both get the TDs.
Yeah,
move the elf catcher into the end zone.
You can choose who the split of SPP across them, something like that.
To make that more rewarding.
Or you could, you're advancing up your team could really, really benefit then, because you could level up your star catcher, who can then in reverse level up your thrower.
Exactly. Be really interesting, and would be more kind of how the NFL works, which I think is really cool. Anyway, Trips, thank you so much for giving up your evening to talk through some Blood Bowl nonsense. Always appreciated. And guys, thank you very much for joining us. If you're going to go to the July tournament, get your tickets booked up soon, and then get your roster in the next few weeks, because it's going to be an awesome event. And I'm gutted I'm not going to be there, but it will be great. So that's the 9th of July, and if you can't make that, but you live near Taunton, a couple of weekends later, you've got the Excalibur Blood Bowl tournament. So loads of Blood Bowl kicking around, and we'll wrap up for the night. Thank you very much for sticking with us. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead Podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.